Discover how to heal past trauma memory in today's episode with Richard Tierney. He's a trauma memory recovery therapist, and he'll show us how to do it. So, Richard, please tell us, how can entrepreneurs heal past trauma memory? Heal Podcast with Lily Patrascu shares longevity and anti-aging techniques to stay young forever, increase energy, overcome addiction, and live your longest, best life ever. Shared by world's most innovative, alternative, and traditional health thought leaders, healers, and doctors. Discover quantum healing strategies to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Oh, I love these questions. Really, thanks for having me on. Really, I really appreciate it. To get an opportunity to speak on your channel is really wonderful. Thank you very much. The thing is, science says it's all about cause and effect. So what happened is the problem, not how we respond to it. So if you're someone who's had a past trauma memory, society has us treating the effect. So you have depression or PTSD or anxiety or some sort of condition, and we treat that. But if we're treating the effect and not the cause, there's never going to be any hope of making a full recovery, because we're just continuing. It's like put a Band-Aid on an open wound. And if we don't treat the open wound, we're just kind of replacing the Band-Aid every week in, week out, and there's no improvement, no healing involved. That's the first part of it. The second part is to understand that we exist only in these 24 hours. So right now here, I'm in the northern Thailand, living with my wife and my children. I'm 64 years of age. I'm here chatting with you. My whole day, my whole life is these 24 hours only. I can't go back and change yesterday. Yesterday I was getting ready for this presentation with you. I was getting ready to present myself and prepare myself and be all ready for this. And today I'm actually making the presentation with you. Two different aspects of me, if that makes sense to you. And that's really what we have to teach our clients, that the person I am today is not the person I was 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Thank you. Tell us, okay, let me give you a practical example so that you can take us through like how entrepreneurs could potentially heal this. So I've had quite significant trauma, and from a young age, from 4 years old until 18 years old, I was beaten about 3 months a year every day. And my grandma used to say I was ugly and stupid and fat. And it was, I mean, none of it was actually true. I wasn't like this ball rolling down the hill or anything. And I was actually the number one in my class as well. And I don't think I was ever that ugly as to be like, so horrible, like a normal average kid, right? And I think this past trauma led me towards attracting more of the kind of people that are representing that kind of abusive relationship. But I would say, because I have worked on myself in terms of affirmations and appreciating myself more, then I can't say that, all the people that I've encountered have only been, bad people and abusive people. No, I would say that it's been like a mix, and primarily I have attracted really good people, really great relationships, and really great business relationships as well. But what I did find is that in a small number of relationships, I am seeing the same sort of patterns, almost like a cycle that kind of continues to happen, and I haven't figured out how to fix it. Where the same kind of like trauma of being abused kind of gets replicated in personal relationships and in business relationships. So, for example, especially from like 2022 until 2024. I've experienced like so many people like betraying me, and I felt like I was put in the corner, and I felt like I was underappreciated, and I'm not sure what I'm doing to attract this kind of behavior and how to fix it. So if you can tell us, like, what kind of action should entrepreneurs like me that perhaps are experiencing similar trauma replicating itself in other situations? How can we fix that cycle of abuse? And I would say also, when I'm not getting any abuse from anyone else, I seem to be self-abusing by self-sabotaging, by, let's say, not sending the sales proposals, by not you can say not sending the the agreements that I said I would send, and through that leading to, disagreements and, different issues that keep occurring. And it's like a way of self-sabotage. So how can entrepreneurs fix this kind of loop of trauma?
Wow, there's a load there, and I'll try and do one at a time. So please bear with me if I'm kind of coming around to this. Please bear with me. Okay, so first and foremost is we have to separate the. I'm going to assume I don't like asking girls their names, especially not in public. So I'm going to assume you're about 32 years of age. Whether you are or not, I'm just assuming you're 32 years of age. Okay, so today I'm talking to 32-year-old Lily. Okay, and 4-year-old Lily, and maybe if we could give your younger self a different name. So if you're Lily today, maybe she was Elizabeth or Liz or something, or
Lala.
Lala.
Yeah,
Okay,
Lala.
good. So 4-year-old Lala suffered a trauma, abuse from a grandmother, and you, at the 32-year-old Lily, been carrying the memory of what happened to her, and simply pains for her as a show of support and solidarity for what she went through. But Lala went through it, not this 32-year-old woman you are today. If you were to step back into the home with your grandmother, in no time at all, you say to your grandmother, "Go jump in the lift, get away from me. You're not coming near me. I'm not listening to your lies." She wouldn't be able to have the effect on you as a 32-year-old woman today than she can have on a 4-year-old child. So right away, you must understand that what happened in the past didn't happen to you. This is the biggest part of this. We talk about regression and going back into the past. We can't go into the past. When we think we're doing regression, we're actually bringing the past into the present. When we bring a dead thing into the present, it destroys everything it touches. So we bring the memory of how your grandmother treated Lala into your present, and you try and own it. You're allowing that dead thing to destroy everything it touches, relationships, opportunities, blocking you from finishing off your sales, putting the sales through, because you're bringing it in. It's just destroying everything it touches. Intimacy, empathy, kindness, love, affection, relationships, just destroys everything because it's not meant to be here. And it's a dead thing. So it just destroys everything like a disease. It just touches everything and destroys everything possible. So the first thing we've got to do is separate you from 4-year-old Lala. Now, the very important thing is to understand that 4-year-old Lala survived. She suffered, endured, and survived that trauma that she went through with that grandmother. And we know she survived it because you're standing today. You're 32 years of age, away from your grandmother, away from that part of wherever you came from, and now you're living in London, having a life today. So you know she survived it. And if she survived it, you have to let it go because she survived it. She endured it. She survived it. And she did that so you'd be free today. She sacrificed so much so you'd have a life free of that trauma. And she doesn't want you going there. She doesn't want you volunteering to be a victim of that grandmother a second time, giving the grandmother a second victim. So back then, 30 odd years ago, Lala was the victim of this grandmother. And the idea that you choosing to be a victim 30 years later is almost like a betrayal of Lala. That she sacrificed so much she'd be free today. That for you to choose to be a victim is a betrayal of her and a self-sabotaging of yourself. And you can see it then where you're not completing deals, you're not putting the contracts through. You've let this dead thing come into your present and it's destroying everything. And the best thing you can do for yourself and for Lala is to take this bad thing and say, right, Lala, this is yours. I give back to you. Lala says to you, thanks, Lily. I've been trying to get your attention for the last 30 fucking years. Give me my crap and I'm going to step off and step into the light. And when we do this, it's visualization, but you see your 4-year-old Lala surrounded by a host of angels saying, give me my crap. And you, the 32-year-old, is saying, here you are. Just take it. It's yours. And you see them taking it. And when they take it from you, you feel the release in your body, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. The great weight lifted off your shoulders, the stress lifted off your shoulders, the anxiety lifted off your chest. And that moment, you feel completely free of it. It's like it's gone. Now, if your therapist asks you, wasn't a terrible happened to you when you were 4, you say, no, that didn't happen to this 32-year-old Lily. This happened to a 4-year-old child called Lala. And I feel deeply for her. What happened to her, it didn't happen to me. My life is in these 24 hours. What happened to her was 30 years ago, and she's left this plane of existence. She's now in the mansion. We prepared for us in her father's mansion, but there's no hurt and no pain. She's with her ancestors, and she's happy in Larry over there. And I'm here in my present, living my present. That's the ultimate goal we go to with the trauma. Now, after that, then you've got loads of learning skills to learn that you didn't learn as a child. Coping skills, how to have healthy boundaries. So there's wonderful 12-step programs like CODA, which is for people with codependence, people who need to get a validation from other people and approval to be alive and get permission. We have to learn to stop all that dysfunctional behavior and be acceptable that I'm okay, Lily, as I am today. I don't need validation from anybody. I don't need approval from anybody else. If people don't like me, that's okay. They don't like me. I don't like some people. It doesn't make them bad, so I don't like them. We're just not the same. Then we have to find our tribe. We all have a tribe. Now, it may be that the family that Lala was born into isn't her tribe. Her schoolmates in school aren't her tribe. Her tribe are entrepreneurs that you've met in your lifetime. And you may never go back to your family or back to your grandmother or back to your schoolmates. When you find your tribe, you fit in. When you find your tribe and all the people you've met on your podcast and in your business and partners, whatever, you create a tribe for yourself of people who like you just for who you are. And that's what we do today. So my tribe now is my wife and my daughter and my son and my mother downstairs, my neighbors and my close friends. I play golf with some people. I play cycling with other people. I go swimming with other people. I go for a meal with other people. And I go to some 12-step groups with other people. And that's my tribe. My family are in Ireland, 7,000 miles away. I see them maybe once every 10 years. That's enough. And if I see them for only a week, that's more than enough, because when I'm in their company, it's very difficult to maintain my sense of self around my family. Nothing wrong with my family, just we're not the same tribe. What they're into and what they believe and what they do is different to the person I am today. So we learn to find our tribe. So your tribe, Lily, you have today is not the tribe that Lala had when she was 4. And Lala doesn't want you to come back to her tribe because it was dysfunctional and it was abusive. She wants you to find your tribe and stay in your tribe and bring the people into your tribe that are good for you. So successful people and business people and entrepreneurs and all the people who drive you and who feed your juices for life. That's who Lala wants you to embrace. And anyone who isn't helpful or constructive to your way of living, you drop them. They're not bad people. They're just not. It'd be like if I like to think about if I'm a nerd and my family are all business people and entrepreneurs and sports people. Nothing wrong with that, being entrepreneurs and business people and sports people. I'm just a nerd. I don't do that stuff and they don't do my nerd stuff. So I need to find my tribe where I can meet other nerds and we can game all day long and we can talk about Star Trek and whatever it is and feel comfortable in our space. And if I'm with my family and they're talking about business and sports and I'm not interested in business sports, I'm going to feel so out of it. But when I find my tribe, it's like I'm a square peg in a square hole. Whereas in my family, I'm a square peg in a round hole. Nothing wrong with my family, nothing wrong with me, just we don't fit. So a big part of this is finding your tribe. A big part of it is learning about codependency, about not letting people rule or manipulate you. A big part of it is letting the past go.
Thank you. How can I stop self-doubting and self-sabotaging?
Oh, wow. Well, okay. The next part you have to do is you have to understand, I love this bit. God answers. I'm going to mention God now. I need to mention God at this stage because the problem is when we deal with past trauma, we've tried man-made solutions. Again, I've nothing against mental health professionals. When I was younger, I had 2 mental health professionals who tried to help me restore my sanity. They're the 2 most wonderful, empathetic, and caring people. And my wife is a mental health, and my sister in Ireland is a mental health professional. I've only got the highest respect for people who dedicate their lives to helping others. So please don't think this is an attack on mental health professionals. But when I look at things like a past trauma memory and the conditions that causes like depression and PTSD, I saw recently, I think it was last year, I was looking at this, and all those people diagnosed with PTSD, there's something like 1.4 billion people, a quarter of the world's population have been diagnosed with PTSD. Now, if this is working, the numbers will be going down, not going up, which means we're treating the effect and not the cause, which means the numbers are growing all the time. So my understanding is that there's 2 types of mental illness. There's mental illness that can only be treated by mental health professionals with medication and therapy, whatever. And then there's mental disorders, and they are the effects of a past trauma memory. And they're not an actual mental illness. They're a dysregulation in our energy and our emotions and our feelings. And if we can take the past and give it back to young Lala, and she takes it out of the plain existence, you're able then to drop the learned behaviors of that depression or anxiety, or you can drop those lessons because the effect is there because of the cause. But when you give the cause back to your younger self, there's no longer any reason to maintain the effect in your life. So then we have a 12-step program based on the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to break free of the effects, the depression, the anxiety, whatever. So that's the idea behind it. So all that learned behavior we have to unlearn, carrying the past into the present and letting all that debt and decay destroy everything around us. We become very closed off to people. We don't trust anybody. We push people away. We don't know who to be safe around. And that leads to what we call voices in our heads. So what I want to get back to about the God thing is, God answers all our prayers all day long. It's frightening to hear this because you kind of wonder, I pray to him, it never answers me. And we have to understand that the problem is our prayers are the self-talk. The things we say to ourselves when we think no one's listening, they are our actual prayers. They're not what we learn from the church or learn from our parents, or what we say when we're in need of dire help. God, please help me. They're not our prayers. Our prayers are what we say from the heart. So if I all day long say, I have depression, I'm no good, no one loves me, I hate my life, I can't get a boyfriend, I can't get a girlfriend, I can't get a husband, I can't get a wife, I can't get a good job, no one will give me a promotion, no one will give me a job, I have no friends. If they're the things we say over and over again, they're our prayers, and God gives them to us tenfold. So God gave us a free will and a book of instructions on how to use it properly. And if we're not going to learn how to use our free will properly, and we go off on our own, think we know what we're doing, we're going to start asking for all the wrong things. It's quite shocking to God that we choose poverty, scarcity, and illness rather than abundance of wealth and abundance of health and abundance of joy. We don't think joy and happiness. We think depression and despair. My go-to place in my life is depression. I can go to depression in a split second. I, by my nature, am a victim. Because of my childhood, I am a victim. And the most comfortable space for me in life is to be a victim. That leads to depression and despair and despondency and hating the world, and no one cares. And I can go there in a second. We all can. But you try and go to a place of joy. It might take you 10 minutes to work up the feeling of being joyful, because it's so easy to, we're so conditioned to feel bad and scarce and less, that to actually go the other way and think something happy is like, I can talk to you about what happened to me as a 4-year-old child called Lala all day long. But if they ask me to talk to you about yesterday playing golf with my son and having a great day out, I'm like slow to talk about the good things, but I can talk about the bad things. And that's the problem. We're in that state of being where we're all being conditioned to talk about the bad rather than the good. And then we have the voices in our head to tell us to do these things over again. I'm no good, I'm no good. You repeat this phrase to yourself, and God answers it tenfold. So if I say, I'm no good, no one loves me, Lily's not going to be impressed with my presentation, she's going to wish she never had me on her show. That's what I'm saying to myself. I'm building myself up to feel depressed and feel like everyone's out to get me, and Lily's going to fire me from the show, and her audience is going to hate me. And before I know it, even without you saying anything, I've gone to a dark place in my head where Lily hates me, where in fact, Lily doesn't hate me because she's smiling at the moment. So I must be doing something about it. But the voices are what we have to watch. So we have to learn how to change our thinking. So a simple thing is, you say something like, up until this morning, I thought Lily didn't trust me and thought I was crazy. But now I'm thinking that I'm okay, and maybe she's nodding her head, so maybe she thinks what I'm saying might be true. And you change your old belief into a new belief. So you maybe get a page of 24 beliefs, and you change the old negative beliefs about I'm no good too. Up until this morning, I felt like I was no good, but now I believe I have a purpose. Now I believe I have a life ahead of me. Now I believe that people do like me, and if I give people the chance, they'll get to know me, I'll meet my partner, I'll have a family, and this kind of stuff. So you have to change our thinking, because the thinking is screwed. In recovery, they call it stinking thinking and faulty feeling. So we have to change our thinking, faulty feeling.
Thank you. How can I change the fear that I currently experience when I'm dealing with clients? And the reason I ask you this is because in 2022 until about 2024, I experienced this cycle of betrayals from multiple clients, which misunderstood me, or didn't treat me well, or underappreciated me. And someone said, "Oh, your time is worth less than £1 an hour," after referring hundreds of clients. So many different things happened that kind of like piled up to make me feel so disappointed and underappreciated, and so much so that I kind of pretty much stopped wanting to work with clients. I became afraid of sending proposal, and I almost started like this freeze mode when it came to like sending proposals. And I understand what you said about the steps that you mentioned already, but is there anything else that entrepreneurs can do to eliminate fear that comes when they are thinking about past trauma?
Excellent. Well, first of all, we have to accept this is a fallen world, and there are bad people. They don't all have the same sense of character and ideals that you have. You're going to get someone who you're looking to send a proposal to, and they want to get the cheapest deal possible, and maybe get out of paying you. Your price is £100, and they'll say, "Well, I've only got £20. I'm going to pay you the other 80 later and never pay you." There are people out there who are like that. We're in this fallen world, and that's going to happen. And you can't take responsibility for other people not being honest. And being someone who sends out proposals, you might send out 50 proposals. You might get 5 of them which are legitimate. 45 might be wasted, but you had to send the 50 to get the 5. So if you come across where you in 2022, 2024, you had your fair share of dysfunctional people. This is about them, not about you. You maintain your standard. Your value is not €1. Your value is €20 an hour, or €20 for every 10 minutes. So for an hour, you want £3,000 for your time. End of story. And the people who want you to present them, whatever you're presenting, they want you to do it, and they know about you. They will pay the 3,000. The ones who try to cut corners, the ones who are trying to screw you, you learn from experience. In the Bible, the book of Job. Growing up, my parents read the book of Job to me. I always thought there's evil in the world. There's evil in the world, and Job suffered evil. And then when you actually do a study of the book of Job, you find out there actually isn't evil. What's happening is God has chosen you, Lily, for a special reason. And he wants to make you stronger. So he puts you through trials and tribulations like Job, where you have the rope pulled out from underneath you. You have people who screw you over, and they're not paying you, and their relationships, intimate relationships, family relationships with your grandmother, people in 2022, 2024. But as you come through it, you're stronger for it, and the memories made you stronger. So I believe that God has chosen you for a reason. He's chosen me for a reason too, and that's why I went through my childhood abuse, and then all the experience I've had in the last 64 years to get to where I am today, so I can be on Lily's show, and maybe someone in your audience hears this message, and they turn the corner, and they get rid of the past trouble, they get back to their younger self, and they go on to start a family. And I like the idea that they start a family, they have children, and then maybe in 2 or 3 generations, one of their children creates a cure for cancer or AIDS. And it'll be down to the fact that you and I had this podcast. Now, we'll never get the accolades or the recognition for our part we played in this. And it doesn't matter. God will know that he sowed the seeds in you, Lily, to suffer at the hands of a grandmother 30 years ago, and then to suffer these dysfunctional, abusive people from 22 to 24. And you came through it. And all these events made you stronger. That here you were offering a podcast with this guy from Thailand, originally from Thailand. And out of this podcast, someone's descendants creates a cure for cancer and AIDS. He has a plan that we don't know about that could have been created before we were conceived. That whatever you're suffering today, he's chosen. I think he chooses certain people to achieve greatness. It's Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, who suffered, but out of their trials, they certainly created a cure for South Africa and for racism in America. People who came from nowhere have been chosen by God. And I think you are one of those people. And God chose you to suffer this challenge, not because he didn't like you and he wants to test you in a bad way, because he knows it's going to make you stronger. So you're sitting here today and you've had those experiences from 22 to 25, and you're never going to let this experience happen again. You now know in future you're going to say payment up front. And be really strong about it. Payment up front, 25% up front, 25% halfway through, and then the finish at the end. Just that's your line. That's my business. You're taking business from me. I have 30% up front, 30% at the beginning and 40% at the end, or 25%. But just set a standard for yourself where they pay in the front and full, and then you'll give the work. Okay? And you have some way of protecting yourself, or it goes through, they have to pay by PayPal or some way that the money's protected, that they can't just take it back. The money has to go into an account where it's held for the duration, and when the deal's over, it goes through. So we learn these ways of having these boundaries. And then because we've learned these boundaries, because of the hardships, we're able to share it with your audience. And some of your audience really needs to know this, and they hear this today, they're going to go, I'll try that. And then their business takes off, and they're going to go, that was the missing link. And Lily got it from me today. We're talking to Richie in Thailand, really found that it's missing. So I think your questions were given to you by God to give to me. That's what I believe in this whole thing, And you were chosen to suffer, as you've suffered, with dysfunctional people who have tried to milk you for your value and take you for less than, to make you stronger. And every entrepreneur that you deal with who has a bad day, that's God making them stronger, that they're going to go on and achieve, they're going to move mountains. I really believe that if you can believe in a sense of, I always say to my clients, give God a second chance. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to join a church or a man-made religion or a denomination. Just make a decision and say, okay, God, I'm going to give you a chance. Prove to me you love me. Take me through, get me through this passage with Lily. Get me at the other side of this presentation with Lily, that she's not out to kill me, that she might have you on a show again. And that's it. And suddenly the show goes a bomb and the thing's over, and it's like, thank you very much. And the next time you have a meeting, okay, I've got to do a meeting now. I don't like these people protect me in the meeting. That's all you're saying to them. No church, no religion. Don't tell your family, your friends you're doing this. Keep it to yourself. Just have a personal one-on-one relationship. Give them a second chance. And I think it'll help an awful lot.
Thank you. How can entrepreneurs heal past trauma that leads to a functional freeze? And the reason I ask you this again, is because I have been in a sort of a freeze whereby I have done like the very minimum since, I would say, since 2022. And I mean, I have still done a lot, considering, but I would say I did only like 1% of my capability, because I really am like a machine in terms of like, super connector and creative genius and, publishing genius and marketing genius, like so many different things. And I do want to impact 100 million people to be happier, to go after what they want, to share their stories, and to create wealth through books that transform the world. But you can say that I have done next to nothing compared to what I actually can do. And it's, again, because of this, fear of how I will be treated, or how I will be misunderstood, or treated badly. And aside from what you've already told us, like, what would be a first step for someone recovering from a functional freeze so they can like fully come out of it?
Okay, but first of all, we have to understand that we're human beings with 3 responses to danger: fight, flight, and freeze. Freeze is a natural, healthy response. They're actually our God-given instincts. So when you feel any danger at all, what's your body telling you to do? If it's telling you to shut down and freeze, shut down and freeze. Don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel as though you're less than or you're not doing enough. You have a response: fight, flight, and freeze. And you've just come through the turmoil of being abused and being berated from 22 to 24. And it's brought up the memories of what happened to Lala at 4 years of age. So a lot of stuff has come on. And if your body's telling you, Lily, freeze, you freeze. Don't make any excuse for it. And if you only give them 1%, 1% is better than no percent. If you have to freeze for 6 months and give 1% only, this is you recharging your batteries. If it's staying in bed, eating loads of food, watching TV, not going anywhere, let yourself do that, because for 31 years, you've been slogging away trying to achieve greatness. And if you're nearly burnt out and you need to freeze, you allow yourself to freeze. Don't make any excuses for it. Just, okay, I freeze for the last 6 months. Okay, now I've come out of it. I feel stronger. Okay, now I'll fight or flight. So it's the freeze that you can shut down mentally, emotionally, and physically. You can pretend you're asleep. You can go to bed. You can have a nap. You can play dead. You can just freeze. In the old days, when the Vikings would attack, and the farmers would go off and hide, half of them would hide in the cave. Half of them would lie on the ground, pretend they're dead. Half of them would maybe fight, or there'd be a third tree. A third of them would fight, a third would hide, and a third of them would play dead. And that's what you did. And then you recovered, you got past the danger, and you come out of it. Now, if it took you 6 months to come out of it, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for freezing when you need to freeze. Don't beat yourself up when you run away when you need to run away. So if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, you're in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and it's really too much for you, hop on the bus, go somewhere, just get away from that place and go and stay with friends and go for 2 or 3 months if need be, and then come back stronger, healthier, and then come back and face the music or whatever. But if you have to run away, you run away. If you have to freeze, you freeze. So the best thing you can do, Lily, the only thing you can do is go into your bedroom, lay in bed, and eat peanut butter and jam for a month. You lay in bed and eat peanut butter jam and peanut butter for a month. You just allow yourself to fight, flight, and freeze. They're natural God-given instincts that you were given to keep you safe. Okay? The worst thing you can do is not freeze, not flight, not run away, and not fight, and to stay in the emotion, let the emotion take over. That's when we get depression and anxiety and all these mental disorders, because we don't take some form of action. But if you're freezing, that's the best thing. But we have to understand that our God-given instincts gives us one natural instinct. So for you, it's to freeze. And in this moment of terror, your first instinct was to freeze, and you froze. For someone else, it might be to run away. For someone else, it might be to hide. We're not comparing ourselves to anybody else. If your instincts tell you, Lily, freeze, and the freeze whether it's for 1 week or 1 month or 6 months, that's okay for you. It may not be okay for anybody else, but then somebody else ran away and you wouldn't have run away. you stay where you are. So running away doesn't work for you. And someone else fights and gets into physical confrontation. You're not someone who fights. So again, that works for them, but doesn't work for you. Don't belittle your response to danger if you take an action of fight, flight, or freeze. Whichever one works for you, it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you less than. You did the best you could with what you had, and your instincts told you to freeze, and so you froze.
Thank you. So how do you come out? Like, what would be the first step of coming out of that? Because it's been like too long now.
Well, yeah, I think you have come out of it. You're presenting on your podcast, so you have come out of it. I mean, you may not be back to flying start again, but you've gone from freezing completely now to holding. How many podcasts have you had since you froze? Roughly.
Okay, 250.
Since you froze, you've had 250 podcasts.
Yeah, just since June. I started in June last year.
Tell me how you're still freezing if you've done 250 podcasts with strangers since you froze.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is my 1%.
That's 1%.
That's my 1%.
Your 1% is my 75%. So I'm telling you, if you've done 250 podcasts since you froze, you are no longer in the state of froze. You're out of freeze. Now you're fighting with everything you've got. You're giving podcasts and you're there for your audience and so as far as I'm concerned, you're over the freeze. Now it's only a mental thing of understanding your 1% is another person's 75%. Your 1% is another person's 100%. You have very high standards you've set yourself. And I think you just need to step down and say, now hang on a minute. For Richie, my 1% is 75%. Maybe I should be nice to myself and say my 1% is 8%. Or what my 1%. Okay, what I'll do is every 50 podcasts, I'm going to increase my percentage by say 20%. So after 50 podcasts, I'm 21%. After 100 podcasts, I'm 41%. After 80 podcasts, 100 podcasts, 150 podcasts, I'm whatever. And suddenly realize today you're 60%. Now, you may not be the full 100, but if you've done 250 podcasts since you were frozen, you have come out of it. You just have to check again. The voice in your head is saying to you, "You're no good. You haven't done enough." You're doing you. So stop listening to the voice in your head. Tell the voices, okay, right now, Lily, I want you to do me a favor. Right now, I want you to say, God, can you repeat after me? God, I don't really believe in you.
What? I don't believe in you?
Maybe. Well, some people don't. So I've had problems with religion, and it kind of blocks me from being close to you. But I would like you now to cast out my voices that undermine and devalue me. For the next 30 minutes, cast these voices out. Something similar like that, just say to God, to give you 30 minutes or up to 24 hours you can claim. So you can do 30 minutes or 3 hours or whatever. And you claim God just to get rid of the voices. So the voices aren't in the head saying to you, Lily, you're no good, you're doing crap, you'll never be any good. When you've done 250 podcasts since you froze, you're walking on water. I don't mean to say walking on water, it's a terrible thing. But I'm saying is you've achieved greatness. That's moving mountains. You think of a number of audiences who attend your podcast, multiply that by 250. And they're the number of people you've helped in your recovery from your freeze. You're so far ahead of yourself, you need to find some way to quieten the voices in your head and to give yourself a clap on the back and say, I'm doing much better than I thought I was. Because you are. I mean, I've been on this podcast thing. I think I'm on my podcast number 12. I'm nowhere near 20, let alone 250. I mean, what you're doing is phenomenal. I mean, that is, ask your audience, maybe put in your chat with your audience later, how am I doing on 250 podcasts? Not for your ego, just to kind of find out, am I still in freeze? Put on your podcast. Audience, am I still in freeze? I just completed my 250 first podcast. And get their opinion. They know you more than I know you. They've listened to your podcast, whatever, and they'll give you the feedback you need to hear. You've moved mountains.
Thank you. So I haven't frozen in terms of actually the delivery. So in terms of running the podcast, I ran events with 250 people. I did a smaller events of 50 people. I've been speaking at many events. But what I mean by freezing is that I haven't sent the sales proposals. So you can say for the last 2 years, I have done the very basic minimum. And it has, of course, impacted everything in my life, my finances, like everything. And so I am still in that sort of freeze mode, although I have started kind of like sending some sales proposals. But I wonder whether you have any like magic step that will get me to go from, you can say 1% in that area of freezing in terms of like sending the sales proposals. Because the thing I'm afraid of is actually that interaction with paid clients. Whereas, like the podcast is not, like it's not like a paid
monetary thing.
And also like delivering for people, like doing their whatever else that I need to do for them that doesn't require payment. Again, I'm not afraid of that. The thing I'm afraid of is actually that interaction with paid clients where things go wrong there. And that's why I've done next to nothing in that area, like 99% not operating well in that area. And yes, I have run events and so on, but I haven't done the main thing, which is my publishing thing. I haven't published a single book this year, for example, or last year.
But very simply, we have to heal the hole in our soul. You've been wounded because of the people who betrayed you and tried to take advantage of you, whatever. And that's a big part of this. And it's like the grief thing. It's like healing a past trauma memory. This was the trauma for you. So there's a wonderful grieving practice I think you should do. And it's writing from the 32-year-old Lily you are today to the 28-year-old Lily you were 4 years ago. Okay, so you write this up, dear 28-year-old with Lily, and the bottom you put down, love 32-year-old Lily. Okay, and on this page, whatever you need to say to that girl about the fact that she was betrayed and how bad it was and how she feels about it, and how angry you are for her and how frustrated you are for her and how it's affecting your life, you write this letter to her. Dear 28-year-old Lily, I'm really pissed off that this happened to you and you let it happen and you didn't catch it, whatever, and it's affected my life now and it's affected my ability to earn or to write or whatever. And I'm really annoyed at that this happened and you let it happen. Whatever you need to say to her, don't put words in your mouth, but whatever you have that you need to say about what happened over that 2-year period. On the sheet of paper, you write this down to the 28-year-old Lily. Anger, sadness, regret, remorse, frustration, pain, hurt, blame, whatever's there for you, we want to get it out of you because it's blocking you from moving forward. And when you finish, turn the page over, and then with your non-dominant hand, so the first one you write with your dominant hand, so I'm left-handed, so I write, dear Richard, 28-year-old Richard, love. But then when you turn the page over, you use it with your non-dominant hand, the hand you don't write with, you write down, dear 28-year-old Lily, love 32-year-old Lily. And because you're writing with your non-dominant hand, you're activating your subconscious mind. So what you write won't be you in control of what you write because your writing is controlled by your conscious mind. Because you're writing with your right hand, what will come out won't be you speaking. You'll be speaking on behalf of 28-year-old Lily. Because you were heard in the first practice, you were able to speak for yourself. By writing with your right hand, your non-dominant hand, what will come out on the page will be 28-year-old Lily writing back to you, defending herself and speaking for herself. It's a wonderful two-way letter. Like it's really popular when someone dies and you never had that last conversation. You can write to that person, your dad, your mom, whoever it is, and basically write. And if you're angry that they died or you were having a fight or something or whatever happened, you can express everything you feel towards that person, then turn over. And because you're writing with your non-dominant hand, what comes up on the page isn't you speaking. There'll be tears flowing. I mean, what will come up would be stuff that you never even imagined you'll ever write, but it's not coming from you. The subconscious mind is triggering the memory of that person and it's writing what they felt. And it'll help you to finally let go of what happened to that 28-year-old Lily. That period of 2 years where she was just dumped on and betrayed and taken to the cleaners and that kind of stuff. And when that's gone, you'll be free to start over today. And you'll put your boundaries in where you say, I'll do your job, but it's 30% up front. And if 10 clients don't take that, but one client takes it, one client takes that deal, it means you got money in the bank. That's one thing I'm looking for right now. So make peace with your younger self. Write to your younger self with your dominant hand, write back to yourself with your non-dominant. You only have that one page. So whatever you need to write down, put it on one page. Then turn the page over and write down, dear 32-year-old Lily, love 28-year-old Lily with your non-dominant hand. And write from her to you what she needs to speak. And you'll find you're not speaking. You'll find it's her. Your subconscious mind is getting you to write what she needs to say to you. And you may not like what she writes, but it will be getting closure between the both of you. She will be taking full responsibility for what she went through, nothing to do with you. And then at the end of it, that's gone. And you're able to then move forward and say, right, my life starts today. And today I'm going to start writing books. I'm going to start sending out proposals. But my proposals now are they pay upfront 50%. Or they pay upfront 30%. Or you'll be able to let go of the past so much so to be able to set healthy boundaries for yourself going forward. And if they say no, the first 100 say no, but the 101 says yes, then your bills are paid. You have money in the bank and you can go for a holiday.
Yeah. Thank you. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
Okay, I love entrepreneurs. I know the best people. They never give up. So I'm living in Thailand, and my email address is richard@traumarecoveryanonymous.com. It's really the only presence I have at the moment. And my son, my 17-year-old son, is my IT expert. So he's putting together a website for me and all the rest of it. And but he's in the middle of just finishing the exam, so it may be a while yet before I have a website up. But I have the program is the Trauma Recovery Anonymous. It's the 12-step program is designed on the 12 steps of AA with their approval, which really was cool. So there's not many 12-step programs that have been approved by AA, and this one was. So it's a 12-step program for the treatment of past trauma memories. And then there's a healing event that goes with it. Both books are available on Amazon on the Kindle platform. So the actual practice of going through letting go of the past is how to heal any past trauma memory. And then the 12-step program afterwards is called Trauma Recovery Anonymous, and they're both available on Amazon Kindle. Liz, thank you very much. Lily, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's been a pleasure.
Follow me for more interviews with world's most innovative health changemakers to live your healthiest life ever.